Every time I come into this bar, the payphone rings, which is not something I should be noticing when I'm here to be numbed by the sights, smells, and sounds of this Broadway bar. It's dingier than the rest of the joints on the strip, its neon lights faded by decades of secondhand smoke, its dance floor dulled by 1,000 scuffs. But it's one of the few places in this town where I don't have to worry about whose hands are sliding into my back pockets during a slow dance, or whose eyes just might witness while they do. This bar'd be nirvana if it weren't for that one disturbing detail no one else seems conscious of, when by the end of the night, I know it's all I'll hear. Shouldering through the door, the far corner where the payphone is hung is where my gaze goes on automatic. It's quiet, still, and dark, while the bar around it pulses with the thrum of guitars and lonely hearts. I scan the crowd, scan the liquor shelf, order a drink, and settle into the skin I don't permit myself to wear out in the open. All the while I'm stealing glances at the phone. It's quiet, and in the solace of that silence I stretch and yawn, taking up space, getting comfortable in a shape I don't usually take despite it being my most natural form. It doesn't take long, no, luckily it never does, for a body to find itself beside mine on the stool, for an elbow to crowd mine on the bar top, and for long blonde hair to get tucked behind a studded ear. "Well, hello," she says. "Howdy," I reply, concealing my grin with a rocks glass to my lips. The whiskey burns my nose, makes my head pulse in a way that slows time. I can take in her every detail like this, with the hourglass on pause, the sharp flick of her eyeliner, the milky slice of her midriff bedazzled with a dangling gemstone. I'm admiring the curve of her Levi's when I hear the first pring. Bile immediately bubbles up, the way my eyes immediately cast over her shoulder to where the payphone stands in the shadows. On the call box, a singular red light flashes in a steady rhythm in time with the rings. I do not breathe, simply freeze, hoping that unlike every other time that if I just stay still, if I just forget temptation and truth and happiness, that the telephone will ring itself out and all will be quiet again. But this is a futile dream that mocks an improbable reality. The woman leans into my eyeline, and my vision racks focus to the curious tilt of her head, her smile. "I said," she repeats loudly, leaning in close, like it was the music that made me mishear, "is anyone sitting here?" The unanswered phone continues to ring, but I see her clearly now. I let the apples of her perfume muffle the sound. My attention goes 80-20. God bless beautiful distractions. "They are now," I say. My lips cant into a smile, and I abandon my whiskey to hook a finger in her belt loop, urging her to take a seat on the stool nearest mine. On the stool beside me, where from this vantage point, her body acts like a physical barrier between me, the rest of the bar, and the world outside that penetrates through the payphone. It continues to ring and ring and ring. Even as we order a second round and a third, even as she puts her hand on my knee, then my thigh, even as we slip off our stools and she leads me to the dance floor. I marvel at the way our fingers intertwine, but that all too important knot of connection pales when compared to the dapple of her freckles that started near her elbow and sprinkled up to the round of her shoulder. Mountain top, a glossy-lipped smile that might as well have been the moon and the stars themselves. The glitter in her eyeshadow twinkles in the neon glow, and I hold her hips in my hands, all while the telephone continues to ring. Closer to the bandstand, it should have drowned out the drone, but having her body puzzling into mine only made it louder, sharper. It slices through the distance, bores into my brain. I close my eyes, grip her waist, pressed my nose into her neck, and pray for the ringing to stop. Pray for someone other than me to answer it. Pray that eventually whoever's on the other end would give up the frivolous pursuit of reaching me, or persons like me. Steadily, the bray of the telephone overtook the metronome heart of the drums. I couldn't overwhelm what was already overtaking. and not even the cinnamon whiskey bliss of her breath on my neck could keep me tied to this moment. Christ almighty, I breathe. My skull is 1,000,000 pounds when it tips and rolls, casting gaze over my shoulder towards the darkened black corner from where a little red light flickers, shines, like a singular demonic eye blinking, watching. Bring, bring. The sound is all I can focus on, a deafening whir that shakes the foundation of my brain. Dust falls from the rafters of it, and I'm far too close to collapse. I break away from a dance partner and swim through the sea of bodies to that dark, foreboding corner. I am distantly aware of her clawing after me, but do not stop. I break the surface of the crowd and find open air, staggering forward into the shadows where that crimson eye stares. I crash land against the cold metal shell of the payphone, its icy exterior a balm on my sweaty forehead. Snatching the handset off the receiver, all goes mercifully silent. And though it is what instinct tells me to do, I do not want to put the phone to my ear. I want to stand here in the quiet, surrounded by the sound of my erratically beating heart.
"What are you doing?"
I hear her say, feel her fingers digging into my forearm. She sounds a little scared, even under the lilt of nervous laughter in her voice, and I'm not entirely sure she shouldn't be. I slam the phone back down on the receiver. I wait. Blood rushes, breath stills. The band continues. Drinks pour. I look back at her, see the way our dancing has sheened sweat on her collarbone. I'm so suddenly thirsty. An electronic trill arrows into my ear and I wince, jumping in both pain and surprise. I whip around, face to face again with the glowing red eye of the telephonic demon that's been haunting every one of my good times. The woman on my arm doesn't react to the phone, only to the shock of me turning to snarl at it. I jerk the handset off the receiver, silencing the bring. My other hand cinches around the cold, springy cord attaching the phone to the box, and gripping both, I steady in my boots. I yank. The leash snaps taut. I dig my heels into the floorboard, pulling until the tension gives with a mighty pluck. The phone comes free and I stumble back, the tail of the metal cord a whip of fraying wires.
"What are you doing?"
she yelps. The whites of her eyes are stark, mystified. I look down at the phone in my hand, at the hole in the body of the machine where the cord once connected. Relief paints over the dread, and I can't swallow down the laugh that escapes my throat. "Come on," I tell her as I take her hand in mine. She doesn't hesitate to follow me when I toss the telephone to the ground and lead her out the back. The handset clatters to the floor and the plastic cracks as the emergency exit bangs shut. We're running when we hit the balmy night air, boots splashing in the garbage grime of alleys we're racing through like labyrinths. This is freedom, I think, as her laughter echoes off the bricks. Panting, lungs burning, I cup her hips and shove her to a stop against a chain-link fence. It squeals under our collective weight, bending to fit the shape of her backside. The shadows of the curled barbed wire case us in as I revel in the sound of her giggles, her breathing, as my lips find hers. Just then a junkyard dog rushes the fence, teeth snapping, spraying spittle. I yank her into the safety of my arms. I've had it with all the world and all its distractions. Please tell me you live somewhere close. She smiles and tucks a strand of hair behind her ear. Then she nods and takes my hand. There is something about guiding a woman to lay back on a mattress that can't compete with pulling her into a handicapped stall. My hand slides up her outer thigh, and I crawl the length of her prone body. She stretches out like a cat beneath me, purring and running her claws through my hair. The room is soaked in the moon's silver, her body encased in the heat of my shadow, and our smiles end when our lips meet. There is nothing in this moment but the taste of Tennessee on her tongue, the subtle squeak of the bed springs, the thunder of my own heart. This is freedom, I think. Only a single second before a telephone, Ring. A freeze. She disappears right along with my liberty as the world narrows down into a pinprick where it's only me and the dark and the telephone with its red, blinking eye. "What?" she asks, breathless beneath me. I've stopped kissing her. "What is it?" Her head tilts back on the pillow, following my eyeline to where a mint green telephone sits on her nightstand. It rings and rings, and it's only then I realize I've never asked if anyone else can hear it. And it's only then I realize I don't have to anymore. Her eyes tell me everything.